All right, one thing before today's episode. I built a private online community called The Secrets of Powerful Women Power Circle, and I want you in it. Live campfire calls each week, monthly guest speakers, and conversations that stay in the circle. Link is in the comments or on my website, powerfulwomenusa.com. Can't wait to see you. This show is sponsored by powerfulwomenusa.com, a place to be inspired by other women. Hey everybody, I'm Jill Conway, and this is Secrets of Powerful Women, a show dedicated to celebrating and supporting strong and successful women and sharing their stories. I'm hoping that you will be inspired by these conversations to pursue your own dreams, reclaim your voice, and discover your strengths. So, my guest today is Gaynete Jones. She's the founder of Best Periodt, a newer organic brand of sanitary products for women, and it just launched in CVS. So, Gayneté, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I am so excited. So let's talk first about that. Your latest products, I want to say that, your latest products is launched in CVS, and the whole line is fantastic because I think it's what every person needs now. Tell me about what got you into doing this, first of all.
Okay. I'll give you the medium story. I have a long story and I have a shorter one. So back in COVID, like everyone else, you're sitting around at home wondering like, what am I going to do? Just stuck here, right? So it got me into thinking of things I wanted to create. I actually had someone on my podcast and she was talking about her physical product, and it was a hair care business, had nothing to do with this, but it got me to thinking about things I wanted to create, like a physical, tangible product. I had e-courses in the past, I've had a book, but I wanted a physical product that can actually go and create change. And I got to thinking about it, but I didn't quite know what that was going to be. And then fast forward a couple of weeks and my period came on, and I'm like, you know what? I have this menstrual cup I purchased a couple years ago. I had multiple, actually, I've tried, and I didn't quite like them, but I thought it was because I didn't have enough time to truly figure it out. I'm like, it's COVID. What's the worst that can happen? I'm home. So I went and I tried this menstrual cup and I realized I still hated it. But that created the trajectory of where we are now, because I began to wonder, like, what can I change about menstrual cups that I hate? So I wanted to have higher capacity because I had heavy flows. I wanted to create a case because all the others came with that lint producing baggie. But in the process of doing all of those things, I still knew that while I was building a menstrual cup, it wasn't going to just be a menstrual cup brand. I wanted it to create a menstrual care brand, helping make periods sustainable, fun, comfortable, and cool, where it's typically not synonymous with periods or period care, but that's what I wanted to do. And I knew that it was the genesis of a mega brand, and we're just beginning with menstrual cups. So that's what happened back in 2020. We were creating this, and I say we, it was Jesus and I. Jesus and I is the only full-time employees here, but we were creating a menstrual cup. And now I have other products, of course, with it. I just launched pads and liners back in November, and we launched into CVS last week. So CVS took on our menstrual cups back in 2024. They put them in 3,000 stores. We increased our store count the next year, gone into over 5,600. And then they added our pads and liners this past week, actually. So I'm really excited about that.
Wow. So first of all, I'm the menstrual cups. Talk about that. I mean, they're not as, I wouldn't say there are, or maybe you know better, they're not as big as the market for pads and liners and things like that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the reason I wanted to try them is because traditionally they have higher capacity. So I knew they had higher capacity than your typical tampon or pad. I knew they were reusable. No one wanted to go out and touch things back then. It was COVID. So I'm like, let's give this a go. You don't have to go to the grocery store and touch all the items. This was the time when people were wiping off everything they purchased at the grocery store. So I was like, if we can touch one less thing in the store, then great. So I went and grabbed the menstrual cup. So it does have higher capacity. It's obviously saves you time and money because you don't have to change it as much. And of course, because it's reusable, it can last for years, which means you aren't buying products all the time. However, it is one thing I did not consider is that in the entire space of menstrual care, reusables are the slower velocity moving products. It is the things people know less about. So because of that, yeah, it is the slower moving products, but they do move quite well, I'm considering.
Well, I don't think that people know about them. I honestly think that's like a messaging issue. Like, I don't think the the big pad brands like Always and all these other ones are really pushing it, right? Because they'll be out of business.
Well, surprisingly enough, Tempax actually launched a cup a couple years ago. So the brands it's just that we're creatures of habit. So we're going to use what we're familiar with your pads and tampons. They are the most convenient, they're disposable, and that's what has been working up into this point. But menstrual cups are beginning to pick up traction along with menstrual discs. So especially among the Gen Zs. So that's a great thing. However, they still have quite the way to go as far as educating the public about them for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have one there? Do you have one there to show us by any chance? Or no?
Sure, I do.
Just for people, just for people who have never seen them and I don't know, how they work essentially.
Yep. So ours, of course, comes in a box, but inside the box you have your case and then you have the menstrual cup itself. So it works similar to a tampon where you would insert it as opposed to it just being something that absorbs your, flow in your underpants itself. However, the difference is it collects it rather than absorbs it like a tampon would. So it does go in and then it collects in the cup. You can dump it out and
wash it. Wash and reuse. Wow. Wow. All right. So, Gayneté. So talk about now. I love the, I love that you're an entrepreneur and I think it's fantastic how you went from, I was reading about you. And first of all, I love what I saw it. You just mentioned it, but I saw it online too, that your only full-time employees are you and Jesus. So I absolutely love that, right? Jesus takes the wheel, right?
Yeah, it has to be said because we're doing a whole lot. And sometimes I believe people think that there's a huge team here. And we do have a team. There are many people that are contractors and those that are working part-time. However, as far as full-time employees, it's Jesus and I.
I love that. I love that. So you got this idea. So first of all, talk about the idea first, and then we'll get into the sanitary products, the pads and the liners and things, and the organic, because why it's organic. But when you had this idea, and so for women listening who have great ideas and then don't know what to do with it, I mean, how were you able to get it going, I guess?
Mm-hmm. I'm one of those people who are pretty relentless. Once I have my mind fixed on something, I'm going to figure out a way to get it done. So my first way that I tackled it was to just find manufacturers that created menstrual cups or silicone products, because it is medical grade silicone. And this was the time during COVID. So there were many machinery pieces that required silicone. So I was able to find a few different options. And I did the same thing I did with my book. So it was an approach I tried with finding my editor. And that is reaching out to multiple people at the same time with the exact same request. And what I did, once you get that, you find out how quickly they respond. You're able to find out, the rapport between the two of you. And also you get to be able to compare exactly what they're doing and saying back to you. So I always ask the exact same questions to see if, maybe this one missed one of my 3 questions. Maybe this one responded, the day before the other. And you can get a sense of who would be the best one. So I was able to narrow it down from there. And then I met with the manufacturers and moved forward. A lot of it did take a lot of negotiations because especially we are manufacturing our cups in the US. So there are higher levels of, they call it MOQs, which is your minimum order quantities that's required. So a lot of it was like, hey, getting them to believe in your vision, saying, I know your minimum order is, let's say 20,000 units. However, while I can't do that right now, what I would propose is let's do 5,000 and I will order 20,000 by the end of the year once we get this up and going within the next 365 days. So figuring out ways that you can really just ask around the question. Nothing is ever fixed in stone. I find that just across the board, everything's negotiable, right? They give you one thing. However, you can always ask around that. And that also helped me decide who we were working with, those that were flexible and believed in the vision as well.
Right. Well, how did you come up with the design? I mean, you don't have to give us, give away the store, but how did you did you sketch the design? Did you reach out to people? You already had it, like the vision in your mind?
Yeah. So the basic shape of a menstrual cup, they tend to they all look
Yeah.
like a cup in, in general. So I did
Right.
sketch it initially. And we did work with one of the female engineers that worked at the company who's worked on menstrual cups in the past. So I worked with her. I wanted for sure to use our logo on the base. So I told her that because I wanted it to be easier to insert and remove. I wanted something that wasn't too slippery. They can grip it. And I wanted the stem to be long enough where it doesn't feel like it's getting lost, though it cannot get lost in there. But also at the same time, it wasn't too long where it created any annoyance or irritation. So it was finding that perfect balance. And after a few different iterations, we even had some 3D printing rendering, which back in 2021 was like a huge thing with it. And then once we were satisfied with it, I was like, okay, we can move to production.
Wow, my goodness. And it's really taken off, right? I mean, it is really taken off.
I like to think so. I always am like, everything can always do a better, right? I'm like, it could be in 40,000 locations, but I'm really grateful that within 5 years, it's in 6,000. So yeah.
Right. Well, you are, I mean, tell everybody, you're in Bermuda. Are you still in Bermuda, or you were in at the time?
I actually live in Canada now, but I live in Canada. I am Bermudian. I moved to Canada and I have a US based business. So I'm a bit all over the place in that sense.
So you travel a lot.
I do a whole lot and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, so now let's talk about, the organic sanitary products that you're making now. How did you find that path there?
Yeah. So with this, for me, I've always been one that turns over a label, typically with the things I've been eating, right? However, lately I found myself doing that even with my lotions. And, there's that app Yuka, you can scan things now and find out, what's in your products. And I was turning over the menstrual products and I've realized that they had tons of chemicals, right? There's a lot of things that are in there. We believe it's only cotton, but when you actually look at the ingredients, which are usually small and underneath the box somewhere hidden, you notice that there's a lot of ingredients. And prior to this, I was using the super heavy pads plus a super heavy tampon because I had really heavy flows. And for the longest time, doctors were just like, oh, that's normal, heavy flow is normal, but it's not. It's common, but it is not medically normal. And I did go to just a standard doctor's appointment. And one time he was touching down by my abdominal area. And he's like, I think you may have fibroids. And this is the first time I had heard that. It's something, of course, I had thought about before. I've asked doctors to do scans and they kept dismissing it like, you're fine. So anyway, this doctor, I said, fibroids, do you think? He says, well, let's hope that's what it is. He's like, because it could be something either way worse, or it could mean you're 4 months pregnant based on the size of my uterus when he was touching. I'm like, okay, well, either fibroids, pregnant, or something worse, right? Pregnancy obviously isn't bad, but I'm saying it could have been something worse than fibroids. So he's like, it's either something really bad, but I really think it's fibroids, or it could be pregnancy. Those are my three options, or the three things he told me it could be. So we got an MRI. The MRI showed 10 to 12. So he's like, okay, you're going to need to get some type of surgery to remove this.
The fibroids.
To remove the fibroids. It was fibroids. Yeah. And when I went to go get the surgery, we were all shocked, including the surgeon, who was a different doctor than the one who sent me, because it was 54 they ended up removing. And that was shocking to him. He had never removed that much. And he's also a professor at a university, and it was so many that he's like, can I show these pictures to my students? So that was the main reason I wanted to create cleaner products, because I had dealt with heavy periods my whole life, and because I had to use so many of these products on a monthly basis, I wanted something that was cleaner for me. But I also have a teenager, and at that point I wanted to make sure she wasn't putting something on her body that was also potentially toxic. So for those two reasons, that's the main drivers for it.
Wow. I mean, no, it's true. I mean, you hear more and more, and you look at those labels, and they're like possible carcinogens, and where women are wearing them day after day. It's horrific. I don't even know how anyone would have the ideas to use these chemicals, and then especially the negligence involved, that they continue to use them when they know that they're not, that they're not good for us.
Yeah, there's multiple reasons why they would do it. They can get cheaper, cotton products and that kind of stuff. So a lot of it is driven by the supply chain in that way. And then, of course, the bleaching, the chlorine for the coloring, they want it to be brighter and whiter, so some of it is driven strictly by aesthetics. But yeah, it is the hormone disrupting chemicals. And what we need to consider is that our skin's our body's largest organ, and the skin down there is even more permeable. So because of that, what you place on it is going into your body, right? So it's important what's on and in your period care.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked about that before doing this, you had a podcast, or do you still?
I mean, it's still active. I don't record on it. I cannot.
Yeah.
I just don't have the time.
Right. People don't realize how much time a podcast takes and effort. But you also wrote a book, and you did all this beforehand. So what were you doing? What was the book about?
So I wrote that back in 2015. I've since actually pulled it off of like every platform, but it was an Amazon bestseller. Just because, I mean, as we grow, our thought process changes. And there were some things I wrote in there I don't agree with these days. And I never want to steer anyone in the wrong direction. But I wrote the book back in 2015. And from there, I actually began teaching people how to self-publish successfully. And then from there, I was helping people to build their businesses. I tell the story that I became a really bad employee really quickly. I was a great employee working in corporate, climbing the corporate ladder, thinking that's what I wanted to do. And the second I had, I guess you can call the entrepreneurial bug, I was listening to podcasts all day while at work and just trying to figure out a way to get out of there and escape that rat race. And so I actually began teaching people. Once I escaped, I was teaching people how to build their own business with their own passions and to help others.
And now, are you still doing that, or no? You're full on building your own passion.
Yeah, full on for Best Period right now. I do still speak, of course, and do podcasts and assist in that way. But as far as like the teaching of it all, I don't do that anymore. The one-on-ones.
Well, there's only so much time in the day.
Exactly.
You know. So talk to me. I mean, when you were doing all these things, were you when you were building your business, did you have an inkling that it would become so popular so quickly and build so quickly?
You know what? I have really big ambitions. So in my mind from the beginning, like before we launched, like I was saying, this is going to be the genesis of a maker brand. And I didn't doubt that. And I think the mind is such an important factor. We talk about it all the time. I had a boss one time who used to always say, your perception determines your reality. What you believe to be true is going to be what's going to be happening, right? So I did know that it could take off. I knew that it would take off. I didn't know all the steps that was going to get us there and how it was going to happen. And it didn't even happen in the timing I was hoping for. If it was up to me, I wanted to be in CVS in year one. I now see, thankfully, we didn't get there in year one. We were not prepared with the supply chain or all the other pieces that would allow us to be there successfully. So you live and you learn for sure, but definitely from the very beginning, because I didn't want it to be something that just assisted and helped a small section of women. I wanted it to be something that helped women all over. And because of that, I knew we had to get into retail and we had to expand in that way.
Well, you're obviously someone who, it seems to me, doesn't give up and is very motivated. So you're going to keep knocking on those doors until they open. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do not give up. If I fall down 7 times, I'll get up 8. Like, that's just how it goes. I always say you can't fail if you don't quit. You know, failing is once you give up and throw up your hands. But because I refuse to, I refuse to. It just won't happen.
Were you always like that, Gayneté?
I believe so. Yeah. From a kid. Yeah. As a kid, I used to cut up my dad's t-shirts while he was sleeping and try to sell them on the side of the street to tourists. They probably thought, this poor child, let me give her something. But like all the time, I always had a vision of something and I always wanted to create something that made someone smile. So there's that.
Oh my gosh. That's great. You're a natural entrepreneur is what it is. You're natural. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
All right. There's so much more I want to talk about. So let's pause here, though. We'll be back with Gaynete Jones after the commercial break. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Everybody help me get the word out. Share with your friends because this is really good. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying this conversation, please take a second to follow and subscribe to the Secrets of Powerful Women podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Because every share, comment, and review helps us beat the algorithm and reach more women like you with powerful stories, real conversations, and inspiration to step into their next chapter at any age. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. Join us at our next event. All right, welcome back. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Gaynete Jones is with me. She's amazing, and I love her story. So we talked about your business. It's growing. I think it's going to be one of the biggest brands out there. Like, move over always. You know, I mean, really, from my lips to God's ears, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about business. You started small. You had the big vision. Tell me about the planning that went into it for women listening. Because I always think about, everyone, not everyone, many women, myself included, you wake up and you're like, oh my God, this is such a great idea. And then you either put it aside or whatever. So when you first decided this, did you like sit down and write it all out of what your vision was and your plan?
Yes, but not in the traditional sense. So I tend not to do things too traditionally. So there wasn't a real business plan with like your strengths and weaknesses, your whole SWOT analysis. I didn't do that, but I did have a clear understanding of what I wanted the brand to be named. I know what I wanted it to create. Eventually had some list of products that were to come in the future, things that were non-negotiables as far as like our standards for the clean part of it. So there were those pieces that I definitely had. And then from there, I moved forward. Yeah. So there was a plan in place, but it wasn't a super detailed plan. I find sometimes we can get in that analysis paralysis point where we're so busy planning that we don't begin to move. And I really think it's important that we can start the process of moving. And when they come back to us with answers, when we're speaking to the manufacturers, we can determine if that's what we want to move forward with. But at least we've taken that step, each day taking at least one step to get closer to where we want to go.
You sound like you trust your intuition.
Yeah, I trust that. Okay, so my philosophy with life is I think of the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario is I have this idea for this product. Imagine if it doesn't sell. Imagine if people don't like it. Imagine if, it's a disaster and, it just goes into oblivion. No one knows about it. The reality is no one knows about it now because I haven't put it out. So I'm already living that worst case scenario. And because I'm already living that worst case scenario, the best that can happen is that it does succeed. It does go well. People do find out about it. It does help women all over the world. And that's where I focus my attention. So because of that mindset, it's just always like, let's focus on where we could go. I'm already living the worst case scenario with no one knowing about it. If they don't like it, it's fine. They don't like it now because it doesn't exist. We're already living it. Let's move forward towards what it could be instead.
Oh, I love that. That's so true, right? I mean, right. I mean, you just give it your best shot, right? Right. Because if you don't, I mean, who's going to? So when you say that, I mean, your brand has built, you said that you're in over how many stores now? CVS?
Just under 6,000 stores.
Wow, that's remarkable. It really is. That's very hard to do.
Oh yeah, it's work for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then what's your goal?
The goal is to I want to be what Kleenex is to tissues, what Clorox is to bleach. I want to be synonymous with better period care, right? So when people think of periods, I want them to think of best period. The name itself is a play. It's a double entendre. We're saying we're helping you have your best period, but it's also the best period, which is modern vernacular for end of story, bottom line, mic drop with the period, with the T at the end.
Right. I love that. Yeah, no, I noticed that. Even coming up with a name and logos, again, if you haven't done it, it takes a lot.
It does.
Yeah.
I had a pretty clear vision with the logo. I actually had my brother-in-law design it. He's a graphic designer, and that the word best is actually his writing. He painted that and created that. And then I wanted period to be really simple, just because I figured most people would be able to identify the word period within period and know what it connects with.
Yeah. Yeah. So listen, what did you originally want to do when you were younger? I mean, what was the plans in your mind?
Oh goodness. When I was younger, I wanted to do law. I was in high school and I won a essay writing competition, which allowed me to work at a law firm for 2 summers. And I realized that is exactly not what I want to do. All that reading, I love reading, but I was in corporate law too. So I'm like, that isn't it. I wasn't sure what it was. And when I graduated from high school, I actually got a Rotary Exchange scholarship. So it allowed me to have a bit of a break because I had a year overseas. I was in Venezuela for a year. And while I was in Venezuela, I had the chance to think about it. I knew I'll come back and have to go to school. My dad's going to be like, go to school. But when I was out in Venezuela, something happened that fundamentally just shifted everything for me. And I was held hostage, robbed as well, at gunpoint. So that, and at the age of 18, that's something that just really does, it shakes you, but it shook me in the best way possible. It shook me to the point where I realized what priorities really matter, right? And I remember while that was happening, it actually happened with some corrupt cops that came over the border. They weren't Venezuelan, but they came across the border. We were able to tell just through the accent where they were from. And as they were shouting, my host dad, let me reverse a bit. My host dad, they tend to put you, and for the most part, with wealthier families. So my host dad was he was an oil engineer. We had this huge house. He had a band that he worked with young boys he pulled like off the street and doing different things to help grow them, like help them. They were working with him. He was helping them to be, basically he was the mentor for lack of better words. And my host brother was part of this band as well. And they were pretty popular in the area. I was in Maracaibo, Venezuela, and they threw him a Father's Day barbecue one day. So one evening, it was a barbecue for my host dad, and I had no idea what was going on. So they had the gate open. Everybody was coming in and out, having a good time. I was upstairs because, I was talking to family in Bermuda. I was typing on MSN Messenger was the thing at the time. I came down the steps, and my host sister, she was older than me. She lost all color in her face, and she had like this guy's arm around her, like her shoulder, almost like an embrace. But I'm like, that's not her boyfriend. I'm not sure who that is. But she kept telling me, she's like, tranquila, hermana. I was just like, calm down, sister. And I'm like, why are you telling me calm down? I'm just coming down the steps. What's happening? And he moved from behind her, or she pushed her to the side, I should say. And behind her, he had a gun behind her back. And then that's when he told everyone in the house, get on the floor. And then some others came in behind him. 4 were inside, 1 was standing outside, and they took everything. And they were there for hours, giving their orders and stuff. But in that time, I had never prayed as much in my life. And I made so many promises to God that I didn't keep for many, many years later. But after it was all done, again, I'm 18, I'm upstairs talking with my host brother and even my sister I was just speaking about, and we were complaining a bit. We're like, oh man, like they took this and my camera, my mom got me for graduation, and they had this. Like we were just going over the list of things that were gone. My brother's, I think it was a GameCube or something at the time, they took our passports, and they took everything. They took underwear. Like they stole underwear out of the drawer. So they literally took everything, and we were just in shock, but also frustrated as kids would be, because stuff that we thought we loved was gone. And my host parents came to me at that point, and my dad said, but you got your life. And I'm like, you know what? Those few words just shifted everything for me, because I'm like, you know what? You're right. I have my life, because I had heard stories, even in our very neighborhood, where something similar happened, but the people didn't get out. They didn't have that, that blessing of being able to survive that situation. So because of that, it shifted everything for me. Even during the time itself, I literally saw my life flash before my eyes. And it was just so many things that happened that I recalled, and it shifted my perspective. So I came back home, made those promises to God, like I said, and I really did want to do something that was going to be impactful. I wasn't sure what it was going to be, but I wanted to do something impactful when I came back home. And then a couple months later, I got pregnant. Wow. So I was a teen mom. At 19. But again, my mindset has always been statistics don't have to define me. I don't care what any paper says. I don't care what anyone else is doing. That's not going to be my story. Mm-hmm. So I ended up going to work, and I worked at a bank and ended up working myself, like building myself up there and moving up the corporate ladder. And at the same time, I was working at school part-time as well. So I got my associate's degree part-time, and then I began doing a designation program and moving up in that way. But during all of this fast forward is when I realized I actually don't want to be in the corporate world at all. When I was younger, that was the thing that I thought was success. I'm like, they're in the air conditioning all day. They're doing work that looks really important, walking around in suits. That's got to be great. And I'm just like, this isn't for me. So, right. And here we are.
Wow. Gaynete, first, let's unpack that for a minute, because do you find that whole experience, I mean, there you must have at some point kind of went through like the PTSD afterward. No, I
I
mean, that has to.
actually I actually didn't. I've had this. My mind's been built differently from a really young age,
Mm,
and I can't explain it. But I did the week it happened. I was a bit more cautious, I would say. So when I
mhm.
hear cars driving by, I'm like, "Who's that?
Yeah.
Is the gate locked?"
Yeah.
You would pay attention to those kinds of things. But after about a week, I was pretty much back to normal. My friends came over the house and they stayed over, but even my parents in Bermuda were like begging me to come back home. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been here almost a year and none of this has happened before. I doubt it's going to happen again, just statistically. Like, again, I know I said I don't believe in the
Right.
statistics, but it's
Right.
unlikely to happen that, again, before I leave. I was to leave in 2 months' time. And
Right.
I'm like, I want to spend the rest of my time here because I've really enjoyed my time. I loved Venezuela, the people, the food, the culture. And my dad ended up coming out there and bringing me back home when it was time for me to go. And he was also glad I stayed because he really enjoyed his time.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you are a very positive thinker. It sounds like, even though you said you think worst case scenario, I feel like you really look for the most positive in every situation.
Yes. So when I say I
Yeah.
think worst case scenario, I
Yeah.
think we're already living the worst case scenario. So let's focus on the best.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
I am a quite positive thinker for sure.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. So, wow.
Oh,
Okay.
actually,
So,
I
go
can tell
ahead.
you, Paul, I can even confirm that I remember one of the times when the people were coming around, one of the robbers, they had, were taking our watches and, all the things and rings off of people's hands. And I remember my lip gloss, I was so close to the ground and face on the ground, my lip gloss stain was still on the floor the next day. But while they were doing all that, I remember thinking, man, if I survive this, that's going to be a cool story to tell grandkids one day. Like I just knew that it was building something else within me
Wow.
outside of this.
Wow. You're amazing. Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I think that were you, all right. So you're a very spiritual person now. Were you then, or that was kind of a shifting moment?
No, so actually I was brought up in the church, and I was very much in the world most of my life growing up, even up until recently. It was only a couple years ago, a few years ago, 3 years ago now, that I rededicated my life to Christ. But prior to that, I still, of course, believed in God, but it was
Mhm.
very much like I'm going to pray when I absolutely need it. Help me, please, rather than this is my strategy to move forward in life. So that's where I am right now, where it's like
Yeah.
prayer is my strategy, whereas before it
Right.
was one of those things I just did when I was on the ground being robbed and held hostage and needing help.
Wow. So
Yeah.
has your life since found Christ in a deeper
Mhm.
way,
Yeah.
has your life taken off since that point?
Oh, absolutely. So I
Hmm.
always say I'm not the CEO of this business. Jesus is.
Yeah.
So because of that, I commit my works to him and let him establish every thought and plan according to Proverbs 16:3. So I literally do what I can and then let the rest go. A lot of it makes it a lot easier for me knowing that I don't have to lean heavily on my own strength. A lot of times a lot of things were done in the past based on what I believed I knew and what I could do. And I'm like, I'm giving this to the one who created heaven and earth. This has got to work, you know?
Right.
So yeah, that's where we are now.
My goodness. Oh my goodness. So, what I love about this is like, you're so honest and you're so real. And I feel like even when we talk menstrual care and menstrual products, some people in many ways don't
Taboo.
even want to, yeah, they don't want to talk about it, which I find so crazy to me. Even women, you
Mhm.
know, don't say that,
Yeah.
oh, don't say that, or we call it Aunt Flo or whatever you happen to
Yeah.
call it.
Mhm.
So what made you like say like, yep, I'm going against all odds, or I'm gonna talk about what no one wants to talk about? That was that hard?
Not really, just because whether people want to talk about it or not, they have to deal with it. Half the
Yeah.
world's population has either had a period, they're currently dealing with a period, or they're going to have one soon. So
Right.
it's like it's got to be it's something that's part of our every monthly life, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, I knew that whether people were talking about it or not, there were concerns and solutions that
Mm.
could be provided for those concerns. So it was a matter of creating fun content and educating them around that. And something that's really unique with our brand, beyond just being fun on social media, we try to be consistent across the board. So even when you're picking up our packaging, like on the bottom, it
Mm.
says no dyes, no chlorine, no fragrance, no titanium dioxide, because ooh,
Yeah.
right? The
Right.
back, the back from spotting to torrential downpours, we got you covered, bestie. So helping them feel like they're speaking with a friend helping them feel like they're speaking to a friend as they're reading our box. And I think that helps as well, taking away the clinical speak from a space that's so personal and making it feel personal, because it is.
Yeah. What have you reached that point, that turning point where you're like, okay, I'm successful. Like I did it, or no?
I don't think I ever would feel that. And not because, I'm chasing something that's unattainable. It's just because I always think there's more that we can do to help anyone, right? Even if it's one person without, because Periodt, I'm helping with the Periodt products, but we also help on the Periodt poverty side as well. So there's a lot of people, when we see people on the streets, when we see people in need, we often don't consider the women there that actually have periods each and every month and what they're using. And beyond that, even in the school system, when you speak to a lot of counselors in school, there are so many who would tell you that people come to them each month, or people miss schools for the week because they have their period and don't have the products to sustain them. So there's always something to do. And truly, my goal is to take territory for God's glory on the shelf. So until we're on all the shelves, I would say no, not yet.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, what does success look like to you? Like when you're like, okay, Gayneté, you are successful now. You don't think you'll get to that point where you'll actually?
I think the business will be successful. I think success for me is defined more by impact than impression, right? I don't care if someone's impressed by what I've done. I want more people to be impacted by that. So, a billion people could try the product and they could be impressed by it, but have they been impacted in a meaningful way? And for me, that's success, helping people to have their best period. And, getting God's name out there, because I'm also not afraid to mix business with my religion, which is Christianity. And that's something, again, that tends to be taboo for people. I'm not afraid of that either. So there's that as well. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you have been featured on Forbes, Today, Shape magazine, so many major publications, major works, and you've achieved this level of visibility. It sounds to me like you're not happy with it yet.
But it's not about not being happy. I'm very happy. I'm pleased. I'm grateful for the opportunity as well. But I never want anything to get to my head where I think I've achieved or reached some type of status. Yeah. Because I think once we get there, then we're setting ourselves up for success. I always think there's work to do. I always think there's some more impact we can have. And I just know that there's always people doing more, and people that are doing better things. There are surgeons that are saving lives each and every day, right? There are people looking for a cure for cancer. What I'm doing is truly not, groundbreaking in that way. However, I want to make an impact in the way I can. So I never want to get too big for my bridges. They say, with pride comes a fall, and I don't ever want to be prideful with it. So I do try to be super humble when it comes to the fact of what we're doing with the business itself.
I didn't mean like unhappy with it. I just meant like you're still reaching. You're still reaching. And still striving. Yeah. Well, what I find so funny is that you became Miss Bermuda.
I was Miss Teen Bermuda 2002. Yes.
Yeah. So and that gave you a platform. Did that kind of change how the projection of your life too, or your mindset?
I feel like God's been pushing me on a stage since I was little. I literally was looking at my baby book the other day, and at the 2-month mark, I was with the premiere on the front of the newspaper. How I got there, I don't know. So I've always been pushed in some way on a stage. The Miss Teen Bermuda allowed me to lean more into the modeling side of things. I was able to get my face out there a bit more, and of course speaking, and it was able to assist me to speak publicly, or to work better at it, to do what I had to do in that way. But definitely it was a piece of it. I was 16, going 16. I was 15, turning 16. So for me at the time, because I was so silly, I was so arrogant back then as well. I truly just wanted my Movado watch and the cash prize that came with it. It was terrible. Yeah. You weren't helped me with that as well.
Oh boy, you weren't unlike many teens. I think, that's okay. That's okay. So, Gayneté, what does the next 5 years look like for you?
The next 5 years, I truly just want to continue to expand the business, the growth of the business in retail shelves, even with the DTC side of things, the direct to consumer. But I am going to do whatever God wants me to do and go wherever he has me to go. That's truly the end all of the question, but I am looking to make an impact and continuing to grow our shelf space across the country.
How can people get your products? Are they?
If you go on bestperiod.com, and that's bestperiod with a T.com, if you go on the store locator section, you can find the location closest to you. You could type in your address or you can buy them online, but they are in CVS. All 4 SKUs, our 2 sizes of menstrual cups, as well as our pads and liners. You can find them at CVS.
Are they on Amazon? I have to ask that. Can you get them?
The menstrual cups are on Amazon. It's in our older packaging. Yeah, we're still working. And when I say we, again, me and Jesus, working around trying to figure out the pad piece. I could put it on there, but there are so many different companies that go in, they create the similar product, or they use your product or put it up, and they're really sending someone a subpar product in your packaging. So ensuring that we're, got all those parts taken care of to ensure that when we are putting it up, no one is able to grab them, put them up at a higher price point to gouge it, or, pretending that it's our product and it's something else. So we want to have that part covered.
Yeah. All right. Last question. What do you think your secret to success is?
Oh, that one's easy. I lean on God. So Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, I trust God with my whole heart, lean not on my own understanding. In all my ways, I acknowledge him and he will direct my paths. And the Hebrew part of that word, the direct paths, actually translates to smoothing your paths, making crooked paths straight. So I know that when I trust and lean on him and acknowledge him, that even when something looks a mess and something's out of the way, he'll make a way out of no way and help me get to where I need to go for his glory.
Oh, I love it. Very nice. It's beautiful. Well, I wish you the most success. I'm going to buy your products for my teenage girls. I'm out of that. I'm out of that phase. Although I have to say, menstrual, premenstrual, perimenstrual women, flow gets very heavy. So, so that's a great product too. I mean, we're always looking for organic products, and I think this is going to be huge. So.
And they're biodegradable as well. So they actually, our product, our box, as well as our wrapper. The only thing that isn't biodegradable is the little tab on the wrapper for convenience to open it and close it. But it is totally biodegradable as well. And we have had many perimenopausal people love the liner specifically because they're like, I haven't had a period, but it may come on, it may not come on, because they don't, the timing changes towards that time, right?
Oh, so they have the liner. Yep, you never know when that's happening. I have to say it's terrible, and then it could just start like a gush, and then you're in. Yeah, I've been there many times. So if only I had your products then. All right, that's it for us. A big thank you to Gaynete Jones for coming on the show and sharing your incredible story. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It's so wonderful. Please check out her products. Go to the store, buy them for you, for your daughters. I just want to say I'm Jill Conway, and I want to thank you for listening to the show celebrating incredible women like Gaynete. I hope you're inspired to pursue your own goals, believe in yourself, and dream bigger. Your voice matters, and your story can help others. So I hope you got something from the story today, and I hope you join us next time. Share this podcast with a friend. Follow us all on Instagram. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having me.